evening, everyone. I'm calling this Board of Trustees meeting to order. If you're able, will you please stand for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have patron concerns, and no one has signed up, so we will move on to agenda item 4, presentation by the Warwick County Emergency Management Agency. Mr. Goebel. Did I pronounce that right?
It's Gable.
Gable, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to stand before you today and speak about the incredible power of partnership. When we come together with a shared vision and a common goal, we can achieve things that are truly transformative for our community. Today, I want to share a few stories that highlight how our collaborations are making Warwick County a safer, more resilient place for all of us. In 2024, for our tornado response, I want to begin by recalling a moment when the true strength of our partnership with our school corporation was put on test. On July 30th, 2024, an EF1 tornado touched down in our county. In a time of crisis, a community's response is measured of its preparation. I want to commend the Warwick County School Corporation for their immediate and selfless actions. When we, the Warwick County EMA, put out the call, the school corporation didn't hesitate. They opened their doors immediately, providing a safe and secured shelter for the residents who had been displaced. Their quick response was nothing short of amazing, and it demonstrated a deep commitment to the well-being of every person in this county. Not just their students, they didn't just open the building, they opened a sanctuary, a place of refuge for our neighbors in their time of the greatest needs. The act of kindness and swift actions is a very definition of a strong partnership. Moving on to our next is our outdoor weather sirens. Building on that foundation of collaboration, we have since embarked on a new initiative to enhance our county's emergency preparedness. We recognize in the face of unpredictable weather, every second counts. That's why Warwick County School Corporation and Warwick County EMA partnered to place outdoor weather sirens at two key locations, the Warwick County Pathways and Career Center and Tecumseh High School. This isn't just about protecting those two schools, this is about creating a wider, safer net for our community. With these sirens in place, the nearby Industrial Park and Linville Park also have a better chance of receiving critical alerts, allowing everyone from employees to families enjoying a day out to get to a safety more quickly. This initiative is a powerful example of how a partnership between an EMA and a school corporation can extend its benefits far beyond the classroom, touching the lives of many in our county. On to our next one that I have been working on for over a year now, and I'm glad to say that it's going to happen, is our Stop the Bleed kits. The next story, it's about empowering our teachers and our staff to be the first responders in a crisis. We've all seen the news and know that in an emergency, immediate action can save a life. That's why we've partnered with the Warwick County Health Department to bring a critical resource directly to our schools, the Stop the Bleed kits. And these are what they will be looking like and what all the supplies is that you'll find in a Stop the Bleed kit. It's a collaboration, is a game changer. Together we're providing over 1,000 Stop the Bleed kits, one for every classroom in Warwick County. Each kit is assembled from our commitment to equipping our educators with the tools they need in a medical emergency. This is more than just a piece of equipment. It's a statement that we trust and empower our teachers to be the protectors of our children. This initiative is only as effective as the training that comes with it. To that end, we organized a countywide Stop the Bleed training session. The Warwick County EMA, along with Boonville Fire Department and the Ohio Township Fire Department, worked hand in hand with our schools to ensure our teachers and the staff receive the best possible training. This collaboration is a testament to It's a shared belief that protecting training is the key to preparedness. It shows that we are committed to not only providing the equipment, but also the knowledge and confidence used in it effectively. And I'll end with the growing partnerships. These projects are more than just a list of accomplishments. They are a clear indication of a growing and thriving partnership. The collaboration between Warwick County School Corporation and the Warwick County EMA is a foundation upon which we can build even greater things. Our work together is a model for how public agencies can unite to create a stronger, safer community for everyone. This partnership is just not a temporary alliance, it's a deep-rooted commitment to the well-being of our community's youngest and the most vulnerable members. By working together with the vital agencies and departments in Warwick County, we're able to pool our resources, share our expertise, and solve problems in ways we never could alone. To the families who call Warwick County home and to those who are considering moving here, we want you to know this. We are doing everything we possibly can. We are actively working to make sure our youth and our teachers are protected from danger. Because their safety is our top priority, we will continue to uphold that promise, one partnership, one project, and one act of community support at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Gable, will you step forward, please? I'd like to shake your hand.
I'd also like to thank Dr. Lambert, who's
Thank you
in
for
charge of our
everything.
safety.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate all your help. Keep it up.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I wanted to also thank Dr. Lambert, who's in charge of our student safety, and he, I know, has coordinated directly with Matt on several different projects, so we're excited for whatever continued and growing opportunities that we have in our partnership, so thank you again.
And I forgot, September 11th, if you guys
Thursday.
come out.
Yes, so on Thursday, we are having an event at WPCC at 1 o'clock. The board is welcome to be there. We will be basically presenting a joint statement about the Stop the Bleed kits, and then we have students who will be there actually volunteering and putting all of those kits together. So that should be a great opportunity to see some good work in action. Yep, Thursday at 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Agenda item 5, consideration of routine business. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. The routine items tonight include approving the minutes of the school board meeting held on August 25th, 2025, and approving the claims and signing the docket. I recommend the board approve the routine items as presented.
So moved. Second?
Motion by Mr. Mosby, seconded by Mr. Baker. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.1, hold our public hearing for proposed budget, capital projects, fund plan, and bus replacement plan. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. In just a few moments after the presentation, President Glover will recess our regular board meeting and open a public hearing on the proposed 2026 budget, capital projects fund plan, and bus replacement plan. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak on the proposed items. Once all public comment is complete, Mrs. Glover will close the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. At this time, Mr. Todd Armstrong will provide information and background.
I'm going to start with, I guess the news got out. I was giving 2 presentations tonight. Seriously.
I almost didn't come.
Oh, well, that's all right. The first one is the presentation of the budget. Included in that, we have our 3-year capital projects plan, our 2-year debt service plan, our 5-year bus replacement plan. So that's all going to be part of what we cover. I'm going to start with this team slide, the Warwick County Administration team. I believe the characters are very representative. There we go. I'm going to walk here a little bit so I can see. The first page here is what we would start out with is the appropriations. So the whole process of getting a budget approved is the appropriation process. So what we're doing is getting the authority to spend the money we have. So we have to identify that we have enough money, or we're gonna earn enough money to cover the appropriations of the set. So in this case, for a budget that gets approved by the Department of Local Government Finance, there are 4 funds that have to be approved during this process. The first of them is the rainy day fund, which we've appropriated $1.1 million. We put that dollar amount in. We've got well more than $1.1 million, but we usually utilize the rainy day fund in those instances where a project is more expensive than we predicted or emergencies arise. But we go through the process and include that in the initial budget so that it's there, so we don't have to wait 9 or 10 weeks because it's a lengthy process as an additional appropriation. The second one is the debt service fund. Of course, that is the fund in which we pay back any kind of debt that we have. Appropriations are $6.56 million, and I'm going to talk a lot about that later today. The education fund, $88,239,000. And down at the bottom of that section there, you're going to see that the education fund is made up of 92.6% salaries and benefits. So when you start thinking about the nature of that fund, almost everything we do out of the education fund pays for, and to be clear, the cost of educating students. It is the teachers, the principals, the program assistants, all those people that influence the actual education of children. In addition to that, and I'm not going to read through all of them, there's a list of salaries broken down. Those are appropriations by categories. Just for example, elementary teachers, kindergarten through 5th grade, the appropriations for 2026, $14.6 million. And then you can work your way down there and see a variety of different numbers. When you get down to employee benefits, that number encompasses all of our employees, but we spend $22,607,000 that we've requested appropriation for to pay for health insurance, life insurance, retirement contributions, Social Security. All those things are encompassed in there. And when you look at that number, that's a lot of money. I mean, in the whole scheme of what it costs to have employees. And during this process of switching my document from PowerPoint to Google Slides, there's a little bit of overlap there. Our debt service, the appropriations, of course, for 2026 are the amount necessary to pay off the 2 bonds that we have outstanding. The 2022A, which was to build the Pathway Center. We have $3.161 million in appropriation, and of course, that one pays out in 2027. So we'll have that new building paid off 2 years from now. The GO bonds of 2024, $3.22 million. It also pays out next year, so that bond will be completely gone next year. And then the discussion for the preliminary determination later tonight will be the 2025 work-in-progress bonds, showing the debt service for next year. And finally, the operations fund appropriation. The operations fund is made up of the capital projects, transportation, bus replacement. Those all used to be their own funds. It also covers maintenance of buildings and all things that are auxiliary to the instruction of students, and technology is included there. You see the debt fund is made up of $41 million of appropriation. Now, to be clear, we won't get $41 million there. It will be a smaller number, but for advertising purposes, et cetera, we have a higher advertisement than we'll actually get. This slide actually explains that. This is the public notice that is posted with the DLGF. It's posted on our website. This form, and there's 2 numbers in the middle of the page that really mean the most. Down at the bottom, it tells you what our maximum estimated funds to be raised are, but the numbers up there, the one that says estimated school operations max levy, shows a $23,573,000 number. That is the maximum dollars that we can actually raise for the operations fund, even though down on the bottom, we've got maximum at 31.3. Again, that covers us in case we have a gigantic growth in AV. And it also, on the flip side, if we have a dramatic decrease, we advertise a higher rate than actually will exist. So we cover it on both sides. The fact of the matter is we can only get $23 million in that fund in taxes. Yes?
Quick question, not to interject, but for the record, AV is assessed value. We have no say in assessed value. That's done by the county.
That is correct.
Okay, that's for the
That
record,
is correct. And I'm still waiting for the 2026 net AV,
which was due when?
August 1st.
Oh, what's today? Huh,
I do not blame them. I actually would say that the changes that took place legislatively have made their jobs very difficult to try to get the things done. And I'm sure they're working really hard and probably fretting. But the truth is, once they work it out, you know, I have to plan the budget based upon an assumption that things are gonna happen.
Right.
And I built the budget around the assumption that the net AV, after the legislative actions, that the additional $300 in homestead credits, things took place, that even though we've been growing in AV and our assessed values are going up, that we could still end in a decrease for the year. And so I built the budget around a decrease in AV.
Okay.
Now, doesn't mean it will. If it does not decrease, fabulous. That will help our bond issue as well. But if it does decrease, we've got covered on both the levy side and the rate side.
thank you.
Again, the parts of the operations fund, some things are required to discuss or advertise. The bus replacement plan was advertised. $1.054 million estimated to be spent next year. That is a lot of money to buy 6 buses. But, I mean, that's how much they cost now. So we're paying anywhere from $160,000 to $190,000 per bus. And so that would be 3 Ds, 2 Cs, and 1 A if we spent all of that money next year. This here is a summary by building. This is the capital projects plan is a 90-page document broken down into 3 years of projects and spending for a variety of categories. But on the end of it, I summarized by building. In 2026, planned spending by building are these numbers. Again, the capital projects plan is available on our website. So if anybody wants to look at page by page to see where those numbers come from, it's on our website. This next slide, the state tuition support. This is the mechanism in which we fund or we get revenue for our education fund. Things that are important, the state during legislative action did increase the funding for education in the state of Indiana. They increased it by $340 million in their calculations, but $160 million of that was for textbooks that we were already receiving outside of the funding formula. So the increase was actually $180 million statewide. That calculates to be just under 2%. So the state increase in the tuition support for the entire state, a little bit less than 2%. Hey, there were years when 2% was a great number, so I'm not knocking it. So the only issue is that inflation and the things that have been happening, the cost of pretty much everything we have is moving up much faster than that. So although I'm happy with an increase in funding formula for the state, I'm not happy that it's not more money because we still have to try to do all the things we do and instruct and protect and all those things with the money we get. The other thing with this, and I've got down in here broken down, there's a number of complexity multipliers beyond the student count, which is just count every student that's in a seat on a particular day, twice a year. You also get additional monies for certain types of students. We get additional money for complexity. In other words, we get additional money for academic honors, students who earn an academic honors diploma. We get additional money for special ed student disabilities of a variety of kinds. We get additional money for ELL, or English Language Learners, so there's additional dollars. We get additional money for our career and tech education students, or the vocational programs. And so all of those dollars are utilized to give additional funding to state tuition support. To the detriment, every one of the complexity multipliers was decreased during legislation this past year. So they put more money into the formula, and they reduced all of the multipliers. Now, there's certainly an argument for that. They're technically what they're saying is that the multipliers were accounting for too much of the funding, and so we're going to give more funding to the per pupil allocation and give less for each of the special disabilities or special needs that might be out there. So from a standpoint, I definitely understand why it was done. I just wish they would have just increased the tuition support without taking that away. Finally, on this one, I guess that's all for that one.
Question,
Yes.
when you talk about the cap, the state appropriation cap, that's the most that the state will pay.
That is the amount of money that the state they have appropriated in their budget to allocate to all the schools in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
This one, very important page for the taxpayers of Warwick County. Identifies the trends in our tax rate. Last year, to be clear, was the lowest tax rate we had in the past 23 years from the school corporation. Now, certainly can be attributed to the fact that our AV was going up, but the fact of the matter is our tax rate has continued to go down almost every year. The only times it hasn't has been during a reassessment or the building of Castle South Middle School, things of that nature. Otherwise, we've continued to closely monitor the tax rate that the school corporation requests funding for. But last year, I gave an advertised rate of 85 cents. I estimated at budget time just under 61 cents, and we ended at about 60.5 cents. This year, of course, last year I had more information. This year, I'm advertising 84 cents, and I've got two different numbers there. I've got an advertised AV, and I did that to increase the advertised tax rate. And then the next line down, I have an estimated AV. Both of them are declining AV. Again, not sure if the AV is going to go down. I suspect it will. But if it doesn't, every dollar that the AV goes up, the tax rate goes down. So I'm showing an estimation of a 4-cent increase in taxes. But if the net AV was the same next year as it is this year, we would actually have a reduction in tax rate. So until we know what those numbers are, we can't calculate it accurately. In addition, when I was saying student counts, this is an important slide because I broke it down differently this year. You'll see the green columns in the middle. There was, in the past 10 years, I went to every school and identified the highest number of students that each school had during the past 10 years. And then I took the numbers that we currently have in each of those schools, and you can see that every single school in the district has a minus in the percent change from the highest number we've had to our current number. Some of those percentages are pretty high when you go down through the column. But to be clear, we have gone down from 10,228 at one time. That doesn't account necessarily for the highest numbers, but to the 9,750 that we have now. I don't think it's a problem. I think it is just information that we make our decisions on. And so we are a declining enrollment school district from that standpoint. So when we're spending, we have to spend both effectively and efficiently for the things we do. But I just wanted to show that it is not a trend in one part of the county or the other. It is a trend. Our enrollment is declining. So, and also that 9750 does have 200 transfers from out of county. So there's even a bigger number drop than that. Employees, I normally do a this year would be 23-year update and show the number of each category we've had for the past 23 years. I decided that maybe I would just show you how many employees in each of the categories we currently have. That was as of last Friday in those positions. 1,422 employees. That certainly accounts for $22 million worth of benefits and a whole lot of salary. But that's the number of employees we currently have. This one here is just as a preparation. You know, when we talk about the budget and the things we're going to do, we also have to talk about the fact that we're going to be negotiating contracts for our employees. We're going to be discussing pay raises. We're going to be talking about the insurance conditions that we have, among other things. And so I did a little bit of research. So the average teacher salary increase for the past 15 years is 4.35%. That's here. Administrator salary is 2.23, and the non-certified increase for the past 15 has been 2.41%. Interestingly, I decided to run the beginning teacher salary, and this isn't on the slide. I took the beginning teacher salary 15 years ago, and then I took the beginning teacher salary, bachelor's and zero, that we have today, and calculated the percent difference, and that ended up being 38.4% difference. So in the past 15 years, the beginning teacher salary has gone up 38%. I then went to our index for inflation for that same 15 years, and it is 38.4%. So we have exactly been able to, in bachelor's and zero, keep up with inflation. Now, I want to say it this way, at least we were able to do that. But the fact of the matter is although they're making 38% more money at the beginning teacher salary than they were 15 years ago, it buys the same thing as the salary did 15 years ago. I did the same thing at the master's zero. It was 39%. I did the same thing at bachelor's top of the scale. It was actually 40%. And at the master's top of the scale was 38.1%. So all those numbers, when we put them out there and we're giving raises and our complexity indexes and we're throwing out our compensation factors, the fact of the matter is we've basically been able to keep up with inflation for the past 15 years. And that's just on the teacher side. So just information. Cash balances. Most importantly, the education fund in this case, in 2021, the cash balance was $12.6 million. At that time, that was 15% of our budget in that fund, which is a really good number. Our cash balance during the COVID years, during the ESSER dollars, et cetera, we were able to generate some protection for the ongoings that we had that were going to happen when the cliff of ESSER went off. We're in a process of working our way back down. The good thing is that we're moving at a much slower pace than I originally anticipated. I thought by 2028 we would be closer to that $12, $13 million. Based on, again, I'm using averages. I'm using average pay raises, increases in health insurance, and the things that I know that are common that we spend money on. In 2029, we'll still be over 15 million cash balance in that fund, which is fabulous because it will still be well above 15% and we'll be leveling out around that time. So provided we continue to make decisions we're making now. Operations fund is leveling out debt service. The cash balance is going to decrease because next year, again, when I discuss the bond here in a little bit, we're going to spend down the cash balance in debt service next year with an additional appropriation to reduce the capitalized interest. Rainy day fund, I anticipate will continue to grow unless we have really, really big emergency, and school lunch fund is leveling out as well, so. And finally, just summary, Peter Drucker. Efficiency is doing things right, effectiveness is doing the right things, so making decisions before you do them is really important. Student population is estimated to be nearly identical to last year. That's a really good thing for us because the funding formula increases the per pupil allocation, so that does generate more money for us for next year. Again, even though the PPAs were reduced, it was an increase. There's no transfer tuition anymore, no textbook rental. There were new legislative guidelines for salaries and benefit thresholds. We are well above them. Well, we're well above the 65% salary benefits threshold. We're slightly above the bottom of the teacher salary, but we are above the legislated bottom already. Our net AV, again, up 15% the past 2 years. I do expect maybe a decline this year. Transfer students exceeding 200. And this is not the cliff that's sitting over here, but by design of the cliff recovery. The education fund will continue to gradually correct. That's the slow decline. Capital project needs are definitely greater than the funding that comes in the capital projects plan. And I say this because our buildings are aging, our systems are wearing out, our roofs, our HVAC, our plumbing. The fact of the matter is the buildings there's painting that needs done. And so it costs a lot of money to maintain buildings as they get older, and hence the conversation that we're going to have shortly on this bond issue. The overall budget excluding grants, $137 million. Student counts twice a year. The maximum levy growth quotient, this is important because this allows a 4% increase in our operations fund levy. At one point, they were going to put this at 1%. They discussed locking it at the current levy we had last year, but some sense was gathered and they allowed for the 4%. It used to be the average, the 6-year average of the non-farm incomes, but they've gone away from that and they set a number and said the max is 4%. So we'll see if that holds for more than a year. Circuit breaker credit, estimate is $2.36 million. We certainly would not like to see that number. Every year, the circuit breaker estimate has been far exceeding what our actual circuit breaker credit has been. But I do not have a full grasp of the tax credits and deductions that have been put in place. I don't even know what all of them are at this point. And so I gather from what I've read that more people will hit the circuit breaker. And when more people hit the circuit breaker, there's more circuit breaker credit. Now, for things like debt service, it causes a tax rate increase for those that haven't hit the circuit breaker. So we'll see how that unfolds. Our cash balances continue to earn valuable interest. We're still getting really good interest rates. Spending in 2025 at the current rate, we will spend less than 98% of our appropriation balance. And it's funny when you say something like that, that means we're going to have more than $2.5 million of appropriations left. So 98% sounds like you're spending almost all of the appropriation, but in fact, it's a couple of $1 million less than our appropriations. So that's a really good thing. And I'll end on this note. My distressed unit appeals board, the DUAB. School corporations are multi-million-dollar organizations. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think I've said that a few times. Spend less than you take in, maintain adequate reserves, have a plan to reduce temporary operating expenses that were increased from COVID. Don't overreact to building capacity issues, very important. And be aware of one-time or limited time funding sources. So I will probably continue to say that every year. Thank you. Questions?
Todd, you mentioned that what you've seen indicates that you're going to have a higher circuit breaker credit.
I would expect it.
Is that wouldn't that correlate to a higher AV? Isn't that kind of one-to-one?
Well, No, not necessarily, because the circuit breaker credit, now, what happens on the circuit breaker credit is when your rate hits a certain amount or your levy hits a certain, that we're going against individuals, they stop paying. So let's say that Cliff hits the circuit breaker and his tax rate was gonna make him generate $1,500. Instead, he's generating 1,000 because he's hit the circuit breaker limit. Well, that $500 still has to be gathered. So everybody else that isn't at the circuit breaker, it increases. So it's gonna generate a higher rate.
But the only reason Cliff hit the circuit breaker
Could be
is
solely
because the assessed
because,
values are up.
not necessarily, it could be because of the new credits and deductions that they
Yeah.
put in place. And I don't know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
just,
know
you
what's
know.
gonna happen until
Right.
we've gone through a year. I do not believe it's gonna be 2.36 million.
Yeah,
I think that was very conservative on the DLGF's part
okay.
to prepare us, because that would be $2.36 million we would not have in the operations fund,
Right,
where we actually need it. So
yeah.
I would be surprised, honestly, if it's over $1 million.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you, Todd. There's a lot of stuff here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I will now close the
I'm just
meeting
gonna stay right here.
and open a public hearing for if anyone wants to make comments on the proposed 2026 budget, capital projects fund, plan, and bus replacement plan. Members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak on the proposed items. And once all public comments are complete, oh, I skipped a line. Yep. If you have anything to say, come forward now. You have 3 minutes. No public comments being made. I will now resume. I'll close the public hearing and open our regular board meeting. Do I read this part too? Item agenda 7.2, our first preliminary determination hearing. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. The next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a preliminary hearing on the proposed bond projects. After a presentation by Mr. Todd Armstrong, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit comments to 3 minutes and the topic be limited to the proposed projects under consideration. At this time, Mr. Armstrong will explain the purpose of the hearing.
I promise it won't be as winded as the last one. So anytime we issue bonds, a public entity issues bonds that exceeds the non-controlled project threshold. In other words, for us, if we're exceeding a bond issue that's approximately $6.7 million, we have to hold 2 public hearings. And the reason for those hearings is so that information can be provided before we adopt a resolution determining that we're going to issue those bonds. So the hearing first is to inform the public of what we're going to do, which is what I'm going to do here. Secondly, it's to give them the opportunity to speak about said bond issue, and that's the second part of the hearing. Inside of that, there are some things that have to be disclosed in the resolution, and so I'm going to go through what those are, and I'm going to try to explain them out a little bit. So maximum financial terms have to be disclosed in the resolution. So the first thing is the maximum dollar amount that we're going to borrow. In this case, is $17 million. The bond issues plan is a $17 million bond issue. We can't come back and change our minds after this, after the resolution's adopted, and say, you know what, we've got 19 million capability, let's borrow 19 million. This sets that maximum 17 million. The estimated interest. Now, we used 5.5% for the interest on these bonds. We didn't calculate a premium, we didn't calculate a discount. We simply used 5.5%. The estimated interest is $3.285 million over the course of the 5 years of the loan. I would expect it to be less than that. The maturity date that is identified in the resolution is January 15th of 2035. Our bonds are planning to mature on December 31st, 2030, or 1/15/2031, depending, we'll pay it by December 31st of 2030. But again, we're outlining if something happened and we had to add a year to the bond payout, we could, because we're putting a further date out there. But our anticipation is, and what we're planning on doing, is a bond issue that is paid back in 5 years. The maximum annual debt service levy is $5,087,000. Again, that is a much higher number. It's like advertising for the budget. It's a much higher number than we'll ever utilize, but it would allow us to levy that for this bond issue if need be. Again, you have to do these things because when you're borrowing money and selling bonds, the people or the entities that are selling those bonds that on your behalf want to make sure they're getting paid back. So they don't want you to be like, well, I can't raise enough money to pay them back. So we have to disclose that information for that purpose as well. The maximum debt service tax rate change. And this is important because, the tax rate could change as much as 0.0968, which is a 9-cent tax rate change. Now, our current plan is a near zero tax rate change. Our levy that we're generating after this bond issue happens for next year is identical to the levy that we have this year. In other words, we're not raising $1 more next year. I intentionally, in the budget, have identified our max levy at last year's number. So we can't generate more than that. So consequently, there's no way we're going to increase our tax rate 9 cents unless our AV drops literally $800 million. I mean, it could. I mean, there's stranger things have happened, but the reason you have to put the maximum change in levy, I mean, so if that happens and the AV did drop and they recalculated it, and lo and behold, we went from 4.7 billion to, or if we decrease by $800 million, let's just leave it at that. We could go up a tax rate that's a number that looks like that. But again, we have to be able to generate enough money to pay back for the bond issue. Let me say that again so Jordan doesn't have to ask me in a little bit. Our intent is levy neutral and near rate neutral. The rate will only be indicative of the AV reduction, if there's an AV reduction. Okay? We did advertise, publish the preliminary determination hearing on August 28th in the Boonville Standard. It was also posted on the corporation website. More importantly, the purpose of this bond issue is to generate funds to remedy maintenance and construction renovation issues at nearly every building in the school corporation. I fully anticipate that we will start work right after the bonds are issued. We will probably start planning before the bonds are issued. We have lots of systemic work that needs to be done, but ideally, we'll probably spend some of this bond issue at nearly every school building in the corporation over the next couple of years. I think it'll span a 2 to 3 year period of time. 2 years I'm expecting, but projects add up. They take time, things get delayed, so it could be a little bit longer than that. It also would allow us, if we chose to build an additional building of some sort, provided the funding's there after we make the decisions on all the things we need to do, we could also do that with the money as well. I'm going to divert you to this spreadsheet up here. On there, right now, our existing debt, we have 2 outstanding bond issues. 2022A, which again is the Pathway Center, pays out in 2027. We also have a bond issue from 2024 that pays out next year. So both of those bonds would be eliminated and gone in 2 years. Now, with that being the case, it does allow, if you look across that top line there, we have a current capacity of almost $32 million of general obligation bond capacity. With the debt only being $12 million that we have outstanding, in other words, over the next 2 years, we would have zero, but right now, outstanding total is $12 million. It gives us the capacity to borrow up to $19.767 million. So with issuing the bond of the $17 million, obviously, the immediate effect is our capacity to borrow again is reduced substantially because we're using the largest portion of that. But if you look at that right side of the spreadsheet, you see by December 31st of this year, we're already back up to 5 million capability. By June 30th of next year, we're up to 8 million. And by December 31st of next year, we will be back up to $11 million of bond capacity. So very quickly, because of the way we structure our bonds to pay back so quickly, that capacity runs right back up so that if we need to borrow for something else, we have the capability to do that. So it's important to understand how that capacity works. And finally, this is a depiction of our current bond issues, the 24, the 22, and the 2025. Now, I want you to look at this chart here. So the blue represents the WPCC bond issue. The orange represents the bond issue from 2024. And you see that in 2027, there's no more blue or any more orange. In 2026, you see the blue, the orange, the gray, and the gold. This is important to understand and what we're doing with this bond issue. So the gray represents the portion that the school corporation will pay through our debt service. Now, it is not additional revenue being generated. $174,000 of that gray dollar amount right there is generated in our budget that we have right now. But that's the maximum dollars we could get to keep our levy neutral for next year. So that's $174,000. We get to generate that this year. It still maintains levy neutrality. We're not raising a dollar more than we did last year. However, that 174 isn't enough to cover the interest on this bond issue that is going to take place in 2026. So we'll do an additional appropriation mid to late next year for spending a little bit of our cash balance in the debt service, probably another $250,000, $300,000. So we'll pay a portion out of our cash balance in debt service, the interest portion, probably the second 6 months of the new bond issue. On top of that, there's capitalized interest. And when we sell these bonds, again, we don't have the capability to generate all that revenue without raising our tax rate or raising our revenue. So rather than do that, we're going to capitalize the interest on this particular issue. So the issue will be a larger amount than we actually get in dollars coming back. They'll take the first $500,000, let's say. They'll take that $500,000 and put it in a separate fund, and after 6 months, we'll take that money and pay back the interest for the first 6 months of this loan for next year, for this bond issue. Now, obviously, we'll have $16 million in the bank, and I know Jordan was gonna say this, or Jeff was. We're gonna probably earn $400,000 in interest on that money while we're sitting on that money, waiting to spend it. So when you say $500,000 of capitalized interest, yes, we have to pay that because we have to generate the money. But the side effect of that is we also have the money, so we're going to earn money on that money. So the net effect of it will be very small. It's kind of like putting a roof, I guess. If you had a roof that started leaking and you had to put it on your credit card because you didn't have the money, but that's a lot better than having all the damage that's done when the roof if you don't get it and put it on your credit card and the rain leaks through the roof and destroys the insulation, the substrate, and everything else. So you do it this way.
So quick question, Todd. The additional appropriation you're talking about, that's what you alluded to earlier in your conversation about cash balance and debt service fund going from 850,000 down to 4 something. Okay, that's what you were talking to earlier. Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
And so again, then this issue, and you'll see it stair steps up in 28, 29, 30, we'll be able to pay larger portions of this. Again, maturity date maximum is 2035. Our anticipation is to pay it off in 2030. And again, everything we've built around this bond issue, we kept a couple things in mind. One of them being that our AV never goes up. So obviously if it goes up, the rates go down. We also worked under the idea that we would never generate a levy dollar amount that was higher. So again, moving forward with this bond issue, we'll never have to raise any more money than we did last year through the levy currently. If we do that, we have to have a special hearing, and we would do that publicly and work through that. But right now, this issue, there's no intention of doing that. Okay?
Explain again how the new law affects bonding in the future.
Well, there's a look-back period. And so when, you can't, what was happening is, very common. They wanted to eliminate the ability of doing the same kind of bond issue over year after year after year for operating expenses and things like that, that they could really, because transferring money from one fund to the other, generating $1 million, doing it again. And so they put a look-back period. They said that you can't generate the exact same kind of bond issue year after year. And so you have a 2-year look-back period. And so in our case, our look-back period for the 2024 bond issue didn't apply because we issued a 2-year and 1-month bond issue. So they had to go back to 2023, in which we did issue a 1-year bond. But this, as long as you're modifying it, and in this case, instead of doing a controlled project bond issue, we are doing a non-controlled, we did a controlled project, making sure that our public had the capability to hear what we're saying, what we're planning on doing. It's a larger amount of money, and so this issue is different than that. And so it gives us the capability of doing so. But again, it's under higher scrutiny, which is intentional.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I will close our regular meeting and open it up to public hearing. If anybody from the public would like an opportunity to speak or have any comments, please do so now. As no one has come forward, I will now close the public hearing and reopen our regular board meeting for our next agenda item.
Mrs. Glover, I would also just like to say and to note that this is the first step in the legal process, and again, no board action will be taken this evening. Rather, this hearing, again, was solely to hear public comment. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. The board will hold a second public hearing in this boardroom on September 22nd, 2025 at 7 o'clock. And I would also like to say thank you to Mr. Armstrong for all of the information tonight. We talk extensively, ongoing, year-round about projects, needs, budgeting, and I always ask him, and our team asks him, to come back with solutions to make sure we can pay for everything that we want to do. So I appreciate his hard work.
Thank you. Our next agenda item, 7.3, approve resolution 2025-8 to grant temporary fringe benefit. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. In your board packet is a copy of Resolution 2025-8. This resolution once again provides a temporary fringe benefit to those employees who may not otherwise receive compensation during emergency situations or other circumstances that may cause school closings. I recommend the board approve the resolution 2025-8.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Baker, seconded by Mr. Friends. Do we have any discussion?
Can you clarify just what types of employees or what types of situations this is talking about?
We might have something like looking back to when we would have an asynchronous day. So it could be a situation where we would say, or a PD day where some of our employees are working and getting paid, but out of no decision made on their own, and a group of employees might not have their job that day, such as transportation. So we may choose, or this just allows, it gives us the flexibility to pay particular groups on those rare, unique days when the situation is out of their control.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.4, approve the non-exclusive clinical affiliation agreements. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. We have a few agreements this evening. We would like consideration for approving the affiliation agreements with Woodmont Health Campus, Brickyard Healthcare Woodlands, and Newburgh Healthcare. These agreements state that they will provide qualified professionals and make their facilities available to the Warwick County School Corporation's faculty, members, and students for practical learning and clinical experiences. I recommend the board to approve the affiliation agreements as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Wilhelmus. Mr. Skinner, did you second?
Yes.
Okay. We have any discussion?
So this is for instance, for our CNA programs to give our students a
It
place
can be
to-
for any of those programs.
Yes.
So at these three sites, typically, to answer your question, typically these are WPCC students. But this just allows us to have our students on their site, and we have the agreement between them and us that Mr. Whitehead and his team have looked over previously.
Very good.
Thank you.
No other discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.5, approve a dual credit memorandum of understanding with University of Evansville. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you. The purpose of this agreement is to enable students completing courses at WPCC the opportunity to earn college equivalent credit for courses taken as part of their secondary education program. This agreement will be approved annually. I recommend the board approve the MOU as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Mosby, seconded by Mrs. Wilhelmus. Have any discussion?
Are there other agreements with any of the other universities, USI, and is this just,
Ivy Tech,
Oh.
University of
we just
Evansville.
have to read, this one happens to be coming up for renewal?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Any other discussion? I will now call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.6, approval of a course edition. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. Director of Learning, Mr. Jason Fisher, is asking the board to approve the addition of the following high school course offering for the 2025-26 school year called Principles of Digital Design. I recommend the board approve the course as presented.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. France, seconded by Mr. Baker. Do we have any discussion?
Is this for second semester or has it already begun?
This has already begun, as I understand, and I believe what happened was initially inadvertently, a course number was sent to the board for approval, but this is the course number that it actually needs to be aligned with our
Okay.
Department of Ed. So this will replace the other course number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No other discussion. I'm calling for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.7, approve a line of easement at WPCC with CenterPoint Energy. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. Assistant Superintendent Mr. Todd Armstrong is requesting the board to approve the electrical distribution line easement at WPCC. This will include entering into a 3-year minimum use agreement for electric service with CenterPoint Energy Indiana South. I recommend the board approve as presented.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Eidner, seconded by Mr. France. We have any discussion?
Is it 2022 when we built that, right? So is this just the first 3-year was expired and
To go back to.
No,
This
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 is
is
to
new?
get electric out to our civil construction.
just out to that new area?
Yes.
Okay.
Have any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 7.8, approved donations. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. Yet again, at Tecumseh High School, a $1,975 donation from the LA Gridiron Club to be used for press box and in-zone camera software and support. At Boonville High School, a $2,000 donation from Boonville Cub Baseball to be used for equipment, supplies, and attire. At John H. Castle Elementary School, an $8,992.50 donation from their PTO to purchase the reading program Accelerated Reader for all students in the school. And at Logue Elementary, the family of Preston Blackwell would like to donate a bench to the preschool playground in his memory. Preston attended the preschool at Logue and was in Mrs. Duckworth's class. The bench is valued at $900. I recommend the board approve the donations as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Wilhelmus, seconded by Mr. Mosby. We have any discussion?
I do have a question. Does any, and you may not happen to know this, I can follow up later, but do we know how many schools are still using Accelerated Reader?
Do you know, Jason?
Okay. Okay, and that's all being funded through various organizations. This could be something on our agenda for our committee meeting.
I can just briefly speak to that. As a
Okay.
district, we have not paid for Accelerated Reader for all of our schools for several years now because we've moved to other assessments and programs like MAP Reading Fluency, MAP Growth, Study Island, Edmentum. So those things are what we are purchasing for our schools as a district. And then Accelerated Reader became an option for schools if they wanted to purchase on their own, and some are not using it all. So
So the schools are may be purchasing it on their own.
It's possible.
Or other organizations are paying for it.
yes, as
Okay,
in this case,
That's all I
yes.
needed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Have any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item 8, consideration of personnel recommendations. Dr. Gresham.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. The Human Resource Office has the following business to bring before the board tonight. Agenda item 8.1, consideration of employment, certified staff, Alexis Krantz, temporary second grade teacher at Logue Elementary School, and Tana Small, temporary art teacher at Tecumseh High School. Non-certified staff, Paola Klim, temporary program assistant at Chandler Elementary, April Hawking, program assistant at Chandler Elementary, Kelly Lehman, student support specialist, Dorothy Doss, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary, Sean Alley Camp, multi-responsibility position, Alicia Vaughn, program assistant at John H. Castle Elementary, Raylan Pullum, school nurse at Boonville High School and Logue Elementary School, and varsity coach Dominic Cosby, varsity girls tennis coach at Castle High School.
Motion to approve certified staff, non-certified staff, and varsity coach.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Franz, seconded by Mr. Baker. Do we have any discussion? I must say, when I first read the name, I thought it was Allison Krauss, who is an excellent musician, and I was so excited. No further discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Agenda item 8.2, approve ECA positions. In your board packet is a list of the 2025-2026 ECA positions. I recommend the board approve the ECA positions and replacements to the same as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Wilhelmus, seconded by Mr. Skinner. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Agenda item 8.3, termination. Joshua Julian, a part-time custodian at Tecumseh High School. Termination effective August 28th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mosby, seconded by Mr. Baker. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Agenda item 8.4, leaves. Macy Strom, a second grade teacher at Logue Elementary. Jennifer Watson, kindergarten teacher at Yankeetown Elementary. Lisa Byers, Title I teacher at Yankeetown Elementary. Noah Harada, 4.75-hour cafeteria position at Castle High. Lauren Smith, custodian at Linville Elementary. Daisy Lowe, program assistant at Yankeetown Elementary. Amy Hape, 5.0-hour cafeteria position at Castle High. And Lena Parker, first grade teacher at Linville Elementary.
Motion by Mrs. Wilhelmus, seconded by Mr. France. Any discussion? Motion carried.
Agenda item 8.5, report of transfers. Martha Beal Risinger Smith from cafeteria float position to 6.0 hour cafeteria position at Newburgh Elementary. 8.6, resignations. Allison Oliver, art teacher at Tecumseh High, resignation effective September 19, 2025. Aaron Ballard, part-time custodian at Castle High, resignation effective September 5th, 2025. Brittany Merle, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary, resignation effective September 12th, 2025. Sydney McDowell, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary, resignation effective August 25th, 2025. Dee Poston, program assistant at Logue Elementary, resignation effective September 12th, 2025. Tessa Nepper, school nurse at Boonville High School and Logue Elementary School, resignation effective September 16, 2025. Shalini Bagel, program assistant at WEC, resignation effective September 16, 2025. Michael Spangler, program assistant at Castle North, resignation effective September 19, 2025. Jennifer West, bus driver, resignation effective September 9, 2025. Kelly Brink, program assistant at John H. Castle, resignation effective August 28, 2025. And 8.7, retirements. William Schottmeyer, social studies teacher at Boonville Middle School, retirement effective December 19, 2025. And Vicki Dalton, English teacher at WEC, retirement effective October 29, 2025.
Thank you, Dr. Gresham. Okay, our next agenda item. Any reports, Dr. Redmond?
Thank you, Mrs. Glover. Our first report tonight will come from Dr. Walter Lambert. If you remember, a few weeks back, we had a bit of a discussion around attendance, and we wanted to bring back to you some information about the number of actual attendance hearings we have and what that looks like. And Dr. Lambert is prepared to share that this evening.
All right, so just a reminder about attendance hearings, when I hold them, it's either 10 days of unexcused absences or 18 days of excused and unexcused. Sometimes that's dependent upon how many doctor's notes and things like that that play into that. They don't, all these hearings don't happen exactly on 10 days or 18 days. We'll usually go a few days over than that. It just really depends on the situation when that happens. So we had 86 different requests last year for hearings. We had a total of 47 hearings held with myself and the principal of the building or the person in charge of attendance. So out of that, you're talking about 0.8% of our kids that had issues with their attendance. Now, we did have kids that probably should have had a hearing at the end of the year, but we're at the end of the year. They're hitting that threshold then at that point, and they just didn't have those days. So I would probably, and again, it's a hard number to get a grasp on because of kids moving in and out and kids leaving, especially the kids with attendance problems, because when you file for something for them to have it, sometimes they'll just come out and go, I'm gonna homeschool my kid, and then they're dropped. But I would say when we have attendance issues, overall, where they're missing that 18-day or slightly above, you're talking about probably overall 1.4% of the entire student population. Not a huge group, but a group nonetheless we try to have meetings with. And some of the meetings have been very fruitful when we've had those hearings. We've seen attendance increase and get better with those 47 that we held. But there's a lot that just stay the same, but we're still trying to chip away at that. So, and again, out of these number of kids, we had, out of all those kids, out of the 86 kids, they missed a total of 2,100 days. That's about 24 days per person when we look at that. And half and half, about half the days were excused, the other half were unexcused. And usually unexcused means they're not calling in. That's the biggest thing, is they're just not calling in. And of those kids, only 19% of them had any kind of medical excuse for that. So usually it wasn't a medical issue, it was just hard for them to come to school, fought mom and dad on it, didn't want to get up and go, those kind of things that were happening. And we try to work with the parents then when we have the hearing to say, hey, what can we do to help you? Sometimes we utilize the SRO, we try not to, but sometimes it does help at times to send them out to the house and talk to the student about missing school. Sometimes it's kids that are just getting that lazy attitude of mom leaves at work at 4 in the morning and I'm gonna sleep in. And so then we'll do some stuff to help the parents out with that issue as well. So usually it can be fixed, and we can do some things that help that. So yeah, so we had said 86 requests for hearings last year, and then we held 47, so you're talking about 55% of them actually responded. So those that don't respond to the hearing, we'll go ahead and file with the prosecutor's office, this educational neglect. We do file at times with the DCS, but usually that one gets screened out. When I say screened out, you call the hotline, they'll say, we're just gonna screen this out. It's not something they're gonna go and investigate for educational neglect. They usually will add that in if there's another neglect charge of some sort in there. They'll come around and add that in. It just really depends. But most of the time, it's all done through the prosecutor's office, where we'll file and say educational neglect. The bad thing about that is they're inundated with things, and sometimes you can talk 6 months to a year before paperwork flows towards the parents and things like that. So, but like I said, we do have some success. I had one over the summer that actually wanted to make a transfer, and they needed this for their child because they didn't have good connections with kids at the school. And I said, you missed, 24 days over the school year. I think it was 24 or 26. And I said, I just really can't make this transfer, but I said, I'm gonna give you a break. I said, if you do well the first few weeks, I'm gonna let it go. Kid hasn't missed a day yet, just because of that change in environment for the kid. So we'll try to do those things as well when we go forward with that. So sometimes there's some good wins, but there's a lot of times there aren't those good wins either. So, any questions for me?
Yes, Dr. Lambert, were you able to break it down like grade level? Who has the most?
The most, yes. So the most of those hearings were coming out of the high schools. The majority of the hearings, I don't have the exact number, but most of the hearings I had out of the high school, it was probably, out of the 86, you're probably talking about 68, 69% of them were out of the high school. The next biggest chunk was middle, and then elementary was the next biggest chunk. Now, we get some of those kids that become routine year in and year out. We'll see them miss, 20 days, 25 days, whatever, and you'll see it year in, year out, and you'll see that same pattern going on all the way up. And we try to really hit those kids early on. So this year, I've asked the principals, if you got those kids that over the year miss that many days, if you start seeing that in the first few weeks, let me know. And so I've already had several hearings scheduled right now, and I think I have my first 2 or 3 hearings next week. So we're trying to hit those people ahead of time, try to, give them the tools that they can utilize to get their kids to school and help stop that pattern from happening.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Lambert. Our second report tonight will be from Mrs. Tish Wagner. I believe she's going to share some information about AP scores.
I'm going to try to project this in case you can't see the numbers. There's a copy here.
Drum roll.
It's like, no, I did my job today. I'm done.
Sometimes you have to walk up here a little bit to hit it.
There it goes.
There we go.
The last few meetings that we've had, we've focused a lot on some of the data around iRead, iLearn, those areas. So at the last meeting, Mr. Fisher spent time sharing with the group about our advanced placement exams that students were taking. So this is additional good information coming out. So all of the subject areas that are on there are AP exam areas that are offered within the district. This is within the schools, and there's some that come through the APEX system as well that some of our students are doing online. So we administered a total of 1,119 AP exams, which is great. The next thing that you can see on there are the score levels. Those numbers at the top are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In order to be considered a pass, you have to have a 3, 4, or 5 on the testing. So based on that, if you can see, we had, out of those 1,119 exams administered, 820 students earned a 3 or above on that, which is great. And almost 3/4 of our students who were taking the assessments were earning that percentage of passing. And so one of the things that's great for is students who are moving on to the colleges, if they've been able to pass this, they don't have to take those necessarily in school. There's different schools, there's some differences in scores, but if we looked at the passing rate for our students who've had the 3, 4, or 5 and consider $300 a credit hour, usually about 3 credit hours per class, Mr. Fisher did a great job of kind of running how much money our families have been would be able to save based on them not having to take those classes when they get to college and being able to access that through the district. And so if you can look at that amount, $738,000, that's a pretty good number. So overall, it looks like our students are accessing it, and a majority of our students who are taking the assessments are actually hitting 3, 4, or 5 on the assessment. Any questions?
In addition to the AP, we've got the dual credit classes. Do we know how many are taking dual credit and how much money, when you factor that in, our students are able to save?
That would be even a larger number.
Yeah.
Could be, I don't have those numbers, we got Mr. I would say we would need substantially larger.
Yes.
It's outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Glover, the last thing that I wanted to share this evening was just a few quick comments about the chemical fire. Just wanted to say thank you to all of the agencies who have been coordinating with us and providing us direction and guidance. That includes our Warwick County EMA, Ohio Township Fire, our local health department, and the EPA. This afternoon, we were able to send a second communication to the families of those 7 Newburgh schools, letting them know that EPA was going to be on site this afternoon and tomorrow. During this meeting, I have got notification that they've been to Yankeetown Elementary, Sharon, and Newburgh, and have already inspected those sites and have cleared them for what they call no special cleaning. So which is great news. So what we will do though, however, is we will still do a quick scrub on the playground equipment tomorrow, and then we will give the building principals permission to allow students back in those areas. The other 4 schools will be inspected by EPA tomorrow, and so we're just going site by site, and then we will wait to hear what their recommendations are and either release the site or take under consideration the guidelines that they recommend and take those steps. Just want to say thank you to Brian Flowers. He and his team on Saturday very swiftly and quickly got all of our HVAC systems shut off once we had the notification to do so. And then again, to all the agencies I mentioned and my team for helping me read this one more time. Does this make sense? Proofing our messages going out to our families. So that's where we are at this point.
Great. Do we have any other business to report?
Construction committee meeting tomorrow morning, 7:30 at the administration building. And we have a personnel committee meeting scheduled for October 13th at 6:15 in this building here at Century Services.
The next Student Learning and Growth will be September 23rd at 9 a.m. at the admin office. And then the next policy will be October 13th here in this building at 5:45.
Is there another committee? Seems like we're short. Okay. Our next board meeting will be September 22nd, 2025, here, 7 o'clock here at Central Services. And then we have our fall conference coming up this week, and I'm going to miss you, but I'm so glad you could be with us tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
And if there's nothing else, well, this meeting is adjourned.